The trial in the case The Prosecutor versus Dominic Ongwen continued from the 19th to the 28th February 2018 at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. During this time, a total of 4 witnesses were called by the Office of the Prosecutor to give their testimony in relation with the Lord's Resistance Army, called LRA, and Dominic Ongwen. Mr. Ongwen, the alleged former commander of the LRA's Sinia brigade, is accused of 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed during attacks against the civilian population in Lukodi, Pajule, Odek and Abok IDP camps between October 2003 and June 2004. Since opening its case on 16 January 2017, the prosecution has called 65 witnesses. The witnesses are first questioned by the prosecution, and then the legal representatives of victims, and finally the defense. Mr. Ongwen is represented by a defense team led by Defense Counsel Crispus Ayana Odongo. The defense conducts its own investigations and has the right to examine prosecution witnesses. The 4 witnesses called by the Office of the Prosecutor from 19th to 28th February 2018 were former LRA abductees who returned to their homes after having spent time in the bush. Their individual abductions, the attacks on IDP camps, as well as their encounters with the accused were among the various topics discussed. The LRA's rules and the command structure were also covered by the testimonies. In a document prepared before the trial, called a pretrial brief, the prosecution alleges that the LRA carried out a widespread and systematic attack directed against the civilian population of northern Uganda from at least 1st July 2002 to 31st December 2005. According to the prosecution, the LRA adopted a policy of attacking and abducting civilians, including those living in protected internally displaced persons camps or IDP camps. All 4 witnesses called during this evidentiary block testified about attacks at several of the IDP camps where crimes for which Mr. Dominic Ongwen is allegedly responsible occurred. Protected witness P0085 testified about one of the attacks on Pajule IDP camp in the Pade district of northern Uganda. The witness recounted that he was abducted in 1990 by armed LRA rebels, that he was trained for 2 years on how to use a gun, how to stand in the battlefield, and how to march. After his training, the witness explained he joined the Sinia brigade. He further said that he didn't participate in the attack on Pajule but heard about it from other LRA members. Witness P0085 told the court that he heard Vincent T had been in charge of organizing the attack on the IDP camp, during which LRA members were supposed to collect food items and abduct people. The witness pointed out Commander Raska Lokuya as the one in charge of the attack and mentioned Odomi as one of the LRA members present during the attack.
Who commanded the attack on Pajule?
They told me that it was Raska who led the attack. But later on, after the attack, after some days, that's when Raska came to us and told us that they went to Pajule, had an operation there. They abducted civilians. They also attacked the civilian. They also attacked the military barracks and abducted some civilians and came with them.
Did they tell you who fought in Pajule, Mr. Witness?
Okay.
The commanders who went to Pajule, Raska was amongst them, according to how he also reported and also according to what the other colleagues told me. Then there was Kapere and other junior commanders whose names were not mentioned to me.
Mr. Witness, did anybody at any time mention to you that there was a commander called Odomi at Pajule?
Yes.
Yes, those people who told me were the ones who also told me that Odomi was present in that group. But his being present, he did not go to the battlefront himself. He was in the group that remained behind because he had just returned from the sick bay. He was sick and he had just returned from sick bay. So he did not go physically to fight in the front line. So he remained behind.
Protected witness P0209 also gave evidence in relation to the LRA attack on the Pajule IDP camp. During his testimony, the witness said that he was abducted in 1994 and that he spent about 15 years in the bush as an LRA soldier. He further said that he was a member of the LRA at the time of attack on Pajule, but was not sure if it happened on October 9, 2003 or October 9, 2004. He explained that several LRA units such as the Control Altar and the Sinia brigade were involved in the attack, and that Vincent Oti planned the attack with the senior LRA commanders, among others Raska Lukuya, Bogi, Bok, Opora, and the accused Mr. Dominic Ongwen. According to the witness, his commander, Mr. Charles Kapere, was present in the meeting and informed him about it. On the planning meeting, Vincent Oti distributed roles to the various brigade commanders and that the objective of the attack was to collect food and abduct civilians. The accused, Mr. Ongwen, was in charge of collecting food items during the attack. After the meeting, the witness said, LRA soldiers were selected and armed to start the operation.
Who were the LRA fighters that rejoined you at the base with?
The ones who went to attack Pajule.
Mr. Witness, you mentioned that the LRA fighters went to the centre to abduct civilians. Did you see any civilians when the LRA fighters returned to the base?
Yes, I saw they came back with the civilians.
Approximately how many civilians did you see the LRA come back with?
The ones I saw were about 50 people.
What gender were these civilians? Were they men, women, or both?
They were men. They were also women.
Can you please estimate the age of the youngest civilian that you saw back at the base?
Between 18 and 20, going upwards.
What were the civilians that returned with the LRA doing?
The civilians with whom the LRA came back with were not doing anything really, except that they helped to carry the luggage.
Can you please describe how they were helping to carry the luggage?
In regard to that, when we talk about carrying luggage, it means carrying on their head. Protected prosecution witness P0448 testified for 2 days through video link. She referred to the attack on Pajule IDP camp as the attack in Lira, Pajule. She confirmed she had not been in that place before her abduction and had never gone back after she left the bush. Testifying about the attack, the witness said that when the LRA soldiers entered the camp, they began to make loud noises so that people believed there were many, even though they were not.
Do you remember who gave the order to abduct these 2 people and then kill them?
I don't remember who gave the order, but that day we were told, whoever you find, even an animal, you must kill, because today is the day for killing.
Do you recall how many people were in that group that went to Pajule?
We were many, probably more than 15, but I cannot remember exactly how many we were.
Now, at paragraph 33 of your statement, you talk about the group in which you moved. Do I understand you correctly that Those who were selected to go to Pajule were subdivided into smaller groups.
That is very true, because they used to divide us in smaller groups so that it is easy to run when you fall into an ambush, so that the soldiers do not actually get you.
Do you remember the name of the person who was in charge of the group in which you moved?
Right now, I cannot remember.
Now, you just told us you were told that whoever you find, even an animal, you must kill. Do you remember who gave you this order?
Cannot remember the person who gave that order.
Witnesses in this hearing block further testified about the attacks on other locations. Some of the witnesses testified about the LRA attack on the Odek IDP camp. On this, the prosecution alleges in its pre-trial brief that Dominic Ongwen, together with others, contributed to the so-called Odek Common Plan, which included plans for the commission of crimes. The accused allegedly briefed and instructed his troops to attack Odek, kill and abduct civilians, pillage and attack the military barracks. Witness P0406 testified under protective measures for 3 days before the chamber. He was abducted with his 3 brothers and some other children aged about 11 or 12. During his testimony, he said that he participated in the attack on the Odek IDP camp. He said that they were told to attack the army barracks, to burn houses, to abduct people, and to take food.
Had you been to Odek before the attack? Perhaps even before your abduction?
No, Pangam.
I didn't know there.
Before you went for the attack, or during, or soon after the attack, did you ever learn that this was Joseph Kony's birthplace?
I used to hear from people like Odoke and Dennis from the Doc Adake. Whenever they are talking, whenever they are telling stories, they would mention that Odek was Konya's home. That was what I heard.
At what point did you know that you were going to Odek?
At the time when the select people were taken to Dominic Ongwen, then they said, you people are going to work. When they said they were going to work, they talked, and then Dominic Ongwen said, you should go there, go and abduct children, collect food, and then set the camp on fire. Then we went, and then I heard one of the commanders. I do not clearly recall his name now, but he came and whispered to my commander that right now we are nearby. If you look forward there, that is the place called Odek. Then I heard about Odek from that point. That was when I discovered we were going to Odek.
Witness P0085 also testified about the attack on the Odek IDP camp. When asked by the Office of the Prosecutor about the circumstances of the Odek attack, witness P0085 shared with the chamber information he heard over the radio at the time about the death of 30 civilians during crossfire between the UPDF and the LRA in Odek. He confirmed that through the FM radio, he heard that Odomi's group had attacked the barracks and seized weapons at the Odek IDP camp.
When I went to him, we sat down, and then I asked him, I said, I heard over Mega Radio that you sent your people and they went and attacked Odek barracks. Did your people go and attack the barracks? And he responded, he said, yeah, I sent my people, they went, they attacked the barracks, they scattered the barracks, they burnt houses, they burnt down the barracks, they took 6 guns, 4 SMGs, 1 G2, and a recoiler, a B10, 1. And I told him, I said, okay, no worries. I had that over the radio. I'd already had that over the radio that you had sent your people on mission to that place. And he told me Yeah, he said yes. I did send my people to Odek. And they attacked the barracks.
Did he tell you what happened to the civilians, Mr. Witness?
Okay.
Well, with respect to civilians, he told me that civilians were shot. Civilians were shot during the crossfire. So he does not know how the civilians were caught in the crossfire. He does not know whether the civilians were trying to flee or what it was that they were actually doing. So he did not know what the civilians were doing.
How many civilians did he say died?
Based on what I had heard over the radio before I spoke to him, I heard over the radio that 30 civilians had died in Odek.
According to the Office of the Prosecutor, another IDP camp located in Apache district, the Abok IDP camp, was attacked by LRA officers and Sinia brigade fighters subordinate to Mr. Dominic Ongwen on or around 8th June 2004. The Office of the Prosecutor alleges that LRA fighters murdered, tortured, and committed inhuman acts against the civilian population during the attack. Civilians were also allegedly abducted and enslaved, and their property looted and destroyed. Similarly, the prosecution argues that on or about 19th May 2004, a group of LRA fighters attacked the Lukodi IDP camp in the Gulu district. Allegedly, Dominic Ongwen had control over the attack and the attackers, and conceived, planned, and ordered the attack. As a result of the attack, the prosecution submits, civilians were killed and abducted, and their property was set on fire and looted. During his testimony, protected witness P0406 also referred to these attacks. He testified that the accused, Mr. Dominic Ongwen, issued the orders to attack both the Abok and Lukodi IDP camp. As one of the soldiers who participated in the Abok attack, the witness explained the orders given to the troops.
Would you tell us, please, who gave the orders for an attack to be carried out at Abok?
I don't know.
It was Dominic Ongwen who issued the orders.
Were you yourself physically present when he issued those orders?
I went with my commander. When he selects people, commanders are informed. So my commander was informed. I took his seat, his chair, and all the people that had been selected were lined up. Dominic Ongwen addresses them and instructs them as to what they're supposed to do, and then people get up and head out.
Thank you. That's very clear. 2 follow-up questions. Firstly, what were the orders on this occasion? What was it that Dominic Ongwen told you, the attackers, that you should do?
We were told to go and collect food, people abduct people, and burn down the camp, attack the barracks as well. If once the barracks is attacked and the soldiers have fled, the barracks should be burnt down as well.
And apart from your commander, person number 2, as I understand it, don't name him, can you name any other commanders who were present when Dominic Ongwen was giving these orders?
There were other commanders. There was Owo, there was Odoronyero, and other commanders as well. I cannot recall all their names.
The Office of the Prosecutor describes the LRA as an organized and hierarchical structure similar to that of conventional national military forces. The LRA, as organization, was under the command and spiritual leadership of Joseph Kony, whose headquarters were referred to as the Control Altar. According to the prosecution, LRA soldiers were divided into Stokri, Sinia, Trinco, and Gilva brigades, each of which had a commander. Rules and orders were issued and communicated by Kony and later relayed through Vincent Oti to the brigade commanders and subsequently to the different battalions and soldiers. Regarding the hierarchical structure of the LRA, witness P0085 confirmed that the LRA was made up of 4 brigades: Sinia, Trinco, Stockery, and Gilver. He explained that under each brigade, there were several battalions, and he referred to various brigade commanders during his testimony. Witness P0085 also asserted that Vincent Oti was Joseph Kony's deputy. He further testified that the LRA's objective was to fight the sitting government at the time, and said there were standing orders within the LRA to abduct people.
And Mr. Witness, did you at any time know who had given the order for these abductions to take place?
Our abduction, I do not know who gave the orders, but when we arrived at the place where we were taken after our abduction, we found Joseph Kony was there, so I do not know whether he was the one who gave the instructions or someone else.
And did you know, Mr. Witness, what was the objective? What was the LRA fighting for?
The reason why the LRA was fighting, what I came to learn after we were taken there, was that the LRA is fighting because of bad governance by the sitting government, because the sitting government took away the wealth of the Acholi people and the Langi, so they have to fight to overthrow that government.
Similarly, witness P0209 gave evidence in relation to spiritualism within the LRA. During his years in the bush, he went through some of the LRA's rituals, which included being smeared with shea butter on his forehead and chest. He also explained that he had heard Kony predicting events which later happened, although he did not believe in Kony's spirits. Instead, he explained, he thought that Kony would receive information from other sources about events that were going to happen, and he would disguise the information as if he had received it from the spirits.
I'll put a few questions. Let's focus. Let us now focus on the spiritual and religious aspects of the LRA. Let me ask you, before your abduction, Mr. Witness, had you ever heard about the way the LRA used spirits in their operations?
Before my abduction, yes, I heard of that.
Now, did that information dawn on you when you were finally abducted and you were faced with those rituals that were performed on you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it did.
Now, Mr. Witness, can you tell court whether those rituals that were performed on you ever had any effect on your thinking?
When I was abducted, what I saw was performed on me was smearing my forehead with shea butter and doing the same on my chest. They would mark the sign of a cross and then sprinkling water all over my body. And then continuing with the prayers, singing, and all that. And that didn't change my life. And sometimes he mentions that these rituals are performed so that whenever you go for an attack, you will be bulletproof. However, I kept on seeing all these things not happening necessarily, because my friends were injured. I was also injured myself.
Former LRA abductee, witness P0406, also referred to the LRA rules and the role of Joseph Kony in applying those rules within the LRA. Throughout his life in the bush, he got the opportunity to witness Joseph Kony speaking about what LRA soldiers should and should not do, and about the alleged influence of angels and spirits on all LRA soldiers and abductees. In particular, witness P0406 described what Joseph Kony would tell LRA soldiers regarding any attempt to escape from the bush and how civilians were supposed to be treated in various periods of time.
What did he tell you when he addressed the people on top of that rock?
He said that he was a prophet. He was Prophet Joseph Kony, and he had been sent to save the Acholi community from poverty. But the Acholi people had rejected the war which he was fighting. For that matter, at this point, civilians had refused to help him, and soldiers had been brought from Rwanda. And the soldiers were sleeping with our mothers and fathers. He said that the soldiers were called Olalo. They have tails. And they said if they slept with you, you would grow a tail yourself. For that matter, we should help him to fight and defeat those people. He also said that an angel told him that in 2003 he would overthrow the government, and when he overthrows the government, we would be the ones to rule places like Gulu Town, Kitgum. He would appoint you to go and rule a particular place, and you'd be driven in a car. He encouraged us not to escape, and warned that if you escape, they would get you and kill you. At times, he would say that no one should shed blood, and sometimes people would be asked to tie a banana fiber on the wrist, and sometimes he would tell us a few things to do to avoid blood shedding. Those are the things that I heard he talked about.
Mr. Witness, may I ask a question? What impression did these words make on you? Did you believe what you have been told by Kony?
At that time, I believed it, because he warned us that if you don't believe, you would know. Some of the witnesses also testified about their encounters with the accused, Dominic Ongwen, while they were in the bush. Witness P0406 testified that he heard about Dominic Ongwen for the first time around September 2002. He said he saw Mr. Ongwen and that he found out that he had been shot on the right-hand side of the thigh.
When was the first time in the bush that you heard the name Dominic Ongwen or Odomi?
I heard around about the month of September, because I do recall it was said that he had gone for an attack in Abim at Morlem Hospital. So when they returned at some place in Pade, that's when we were told that he was shot. So we went to see him. We found that he was shot on the right hand side of the thigh. So we left and we were told that he was sent to the sick bay.
you've made it plain that you yourself weren't present when he was shot, but did you see him yourself wounded with your own eyes?
I saw with my own eyes when the other commanders were seeing the injured part, because they had opened it and the other commanders were seeing, so I was also standing nearby and I saw.
And when you speak of commanders, does that include person number 1, your Lapuan?
Yes.
Just one matter of clarification. You said this is in about September. What year is that?
That was in 2002.
Witness P0448 testified that she ended up in Dominic Ongwen's group at some point during her stay in the bush after crossfire that had broken between the UPDF and the LRA. Her group got split during the fighting. She lost contact with the other members and wandered to the crossroads that led her to Dominic Ongwen's group. However, Mr. Ongwen's defense suggested to the witness that she might have never been in his group and may never have met Mr. Ongwen during her stay in the bush.
Madam Witness, I'm concerned that in your statement and in the screening statement and also in the doctor's statement, you mentioned Vincent Oti, you mentioned a book, you mentioned Odongo Ogule, who was a lieutenant colonel at that time. And from that narrative, it would appear you dealt with them more. The question is, why would it still occur to you that it was Dominic who was responsible for your ordeal?
There were very many groups, but I do not know the names of all those groups. However, the man who abducted me, the Odongo Gule, the Lieutenant Colonel who abducted me, the girl from Obalanga told me that he belonged to Ongwen's group. And that's why I said that I was in Ongwen's group.
Witness P0209 also testified about meeting the accused, Mr. Dominic Ongwen, while he was in the bush. The witness told the chamber that he shared his plans to escape with Mr. Ongwen. He said that he felt confident to speak to Mr. Ongwen because he was under his command and thought that Dominic Ongwen was also a victim of circumstances. Furthermore, the witness explained that he observed that the relationship between Mr. Ongwen and Joseph Kony was not good at that point, and he thought Kony had plans to kill the accused Dominic Ongwen.
What did you say to Dominic Ongwen when you shared your plans about escaping?
I told him that, sir, I think my time has come to go back home. Because I think that if I go back home now, Kony will not be able to follow me up to where I will be. Secondly, the propaganda and the lies that Kony was telling us that when you come back home you'll be killed. For me, I have realized that was a lie. And for that matter, I am going to leave.
Why did you share your plans to escape with Dominic Ongwen?
I did that because Kony was also disturbing him at that time.
What do you mean, disturbing him at that time?
As far as I know, and according to what I observed, Kony had plans of killing him.
What was Dominic Ongwen's response when you shared your plans to escape with him?
He told me only one thing about the court case on him, the indictment.
What did he say about the court case and indictment?
He told me that he feared about the court case.
What court case did he mean?
ICC.
He was talking about the ICC.
And what did Dominic Ongwen say about the ICC court case?
He didn't say much, but he just told me that he feared the court.
What year did this discussion about your escape take place in, please?
It was in the year 2008.
Mr. Chowdhury, I just step in for one question. Mr. Witness, would it be correct to say that when you talked to Mr. Ongwen, that at the time you confided in him?
Yes, that is correct. It was not only mine, also his condition.
And it's of course difficult when you never have been in such a situation. And but perhaps you can try to explain. When I say you confided in him, and you said that is correct. Have you thought before you addressed him and talked with him about these matters that this could be a risk for you?
I do not think of the risk for this reason. First of all, he and Kony were not in very good terms at this point. It would actually lead to his death as well. That is the reason why I was not skeptical that telling him would put me at risk. Because I was still his soldier, and Dominic himself was a victim of circumstances and was supposed to be killed. Even me, myself, I was already a target of Kony, and for that matter, I thought it was safe. During their testimonies, each of the four witnesses provided the chamber with details of how their experiences in the bush changed their own lives. Pursuant to Article 68 of the Rome Statute, views and concerns of the victims and witnesses are presented and considered at appropriate stages of the proceedings in a manner which is not prejudicial to or inconsistent with the rights of the accused and a fair and impartial trial. Thus, in responding to questions posed by legal representatives of victims, they had an opportunity to describe how their lives were before being abducted, how they felt while in the bush, and what effects their abductions had on their current lives, hopes, and expectations for the future. Witness P0406 stated that before his abduction, he attended school and played football regularly. He also said that during his time in the bush, life became extremely hard as there was not sufficient food and he was afraid that by the time he went back home, his parents would be dead.
Were you fearful about the fate of the rest of your family when you got abducted?
I thought that if by the time I came back home, my parents would be dead. I thought they would have killed them already.
And could you share your fears with anybody while you were in the LRA?
Well, it's difficult. You cannot ask anybody. You can't.
I understand very well, Mr. Witness. Now I'd like the court to understand the living conditions you had while you were in the bush. Were you getting sufficient food and water, for instance?
When we had just been abducted, there was water and food. It was plenty. But between 2003 and 2004, life became extremely hard, and we did not have sufficient food. If you wanted food, you had to go to the camps and fight.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. What about, for instance, could you dress sufficiently to avoid being cold?
No, when we had just been abducted, yes, we did have clothing, but between 2003, 2004, we were wearing tattered clothes. We did not have bed sheets on occasion to cover ourselves as well.
What about the sleeping arrangements, in fact?
We, the commanders, yeah, did have beds, but for us, we just slept anywhere we could rest our heads.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, you mentioned that you were made to participate in attacks. At that time, and please pardon my boldness, were you scared?
Yes, I was scared.
Do you remember what you were thinking then?
No.
Because at the time, I had never been involved in any battle. So I was scared. I was scared of doing things that I had not previously done, like killing people, beating people, burning houses. Those are things that I had never done previously in my life.
Witness P0448 on her part testified that before her abduction, she would play and eat well and had no problems in her life. She then expressed that her heart was broken when she was abducted because she was no longer enjoying the life she had before. During her testimony, she spoke about the consequences abduction had on her life.
Witness, during your time in the bush, you witnessed many killings and you saw the remains of the dead. How did this affect you mentally?
That feeling did affect me because the killings and the skulls that we saw were so many. I was not able to count them. And it made me think that perhaps even my parents had already been killed because there were many people who were killed.
Do you have nightmares as a result of what you saw?
Earlier on, I used to get the nightmares, but as time went on, there were some people that used to take me for prayers and they would pray with me. So since then, I am calmer. I have not been getting those traumas again.
Now you described your living conditions before you were abducted. Can you describe the living conditions of the abductees like yourself in the bush?
The life was very difficult and very painful. When it would rain, there would be no shelter for us. It was only the bosses who had tents, and they would put their tents out and sit under them. The rest of us would sit under the tree, and we would just eat seeds and beans to survive.
The trial in the case The Prosecutor versus Dominic Ongwen resumed on Monday, 19th March 2018, with the testimony of the 66th prosecution witness.